pace is dropped on a new round of soccer down here. It's a Freestyle Friday. And John here, Jarrett there. And today's show is pretty much going to fly. I mean, we've got chaos to talk about from yesterday. I don't think we'll have a whole lot of chaos to talk about for today when it comes to the World Soccer competition. We got a game to talk about on the weekend. Bart Keeler set to join us at 10 o'clock. And looking forward to catching up with our friends at Beyond Goals, unless they are traversing the planet as they are wont to do, to let everybody else know what's going on with soccer at 9:30. But, Jarrett, I was messing around this morning, and I know that that's a bit of a surprise for you. And I came up with the QOD. And, as we're trying to start the show, we have, all these different things we've got to do and get squared away and set up and all this kind of stuff. And then there's always that one thing that happens while you're getting everything squared away that completely just takes the entire rundown and throws it in the dumper. And you've got to figure out how to do something very, very quickly to get back on track. This morning, I was getting the desk ready and the computers and all this kind of stuff. And you turn on all the lights, and the desk lamp started, and then the desk lamp died. So literally at about 5 minutes to go before the show, I'm trying to remember where we have light bulbs, get rid of the one that's in the desk lamp, throw it away, find the light bulbs, which, of course, were on the top floor, which meant going up 2 floors of stairs, come back down, plug the new light bulb back in, and then try to turn everything on and off. And I can't just directly turn the light switch on and off because I have tables in the way. So my question of the day for everyone on a Friday, what was the last thing that you did that completely and totally fell asunder and you were completely and totally inconvenienced right up against the deadline? What was that one thing that screwed you up right up against the deadline and you had to kind of dance around as quickly as humanly possible to get back on task so you could get everything rolling? For me, it was a desk lamp 5 minutes before the show and having to run up 3 flights and try to figure out, okay, where are the light bulbs and how do I run back downstairs and get everything plugged in to where we look like we do now? So there you go. That's the QOD. Jarrett, when was the last thing that happened to you that completely blew up your rundown and you had to do something quickly to get everything back on track?
Probably.
See, your life is perfect.
No, it's not. Let's see. I'm trying to think of the last time it was a disaster. Oh, it was shooting a football game, and basically the tripod had failed.
Oh man!
So I ended up until I got a replacement set up, I ended up shooting it, basically holding the camera in place with one hand and guiding it with the other. So you're just kind of waiting it out, just hoping it doesn't shift to change the shot too much, because at that point you're shooting all 22. Just trying to keep everything in one place.
Yes. So.
Also, you were underselling today, but we'll get to that.
I'm underselling today. Yes, morning, DJ. Emilio, trying to find LED for as many bulbs as possible. In my case, they would likely outlast me, so I'll probably never need to replace them. And Michael Head definitely is the leader in the clubhouse, pardon the pun, gets to the golf course and determines the neighborhood kids took out his putter. That really is that's suboptimal for short game. So Michael definitely wins for sure. So yeah, when was the last time that you had your rundown? Everything was going from A to B and completely, and one thing happens and the house of cards falls apart and you've got to get everything assembled quickly. That was the question of the day. So
I set a lawnmower on fire once when I was a kid.
Nice. How did you do that?
It was a high yard and I was cutting it, and a bunch of grass ended up on top of the lawnmower. And it was a hot day and something caught and sparked, so the top of the lawnmower caught fire. So
there
it was like a baked Alaska.
Yes. Man. I've never been I've never done that before. But yeah, that's our opening kickoff. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. So it's a perpetual question for the show about stuff that you were doing and had to completely reorient your life and then get everything back on task. So it was the last time that happened. So there's your QR code for our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com, Kickoff Coffee CO on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. Don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15, and it gets you 15% off of your purchase for everything Kickoff Coffee, and they in turn take 10% and reinvest it into the youth game. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. So, Jarrett, yesterday, chaos. It was chaos, sir. Absolute chaos. That's what
it was.
And that's what we absolutely live for. How many did you have? Did you have?
I'm so disappointed in you,
going?
Costa Rica.
I know they had a lead, and they had a lead, and then they didn't have a lead, and then Germany put the pedal down. Did you have both screens going? Were you watching the entire time?
No, I was going back and forth.
Okay, because I was in TV tapings yesterday, and then it was trying to figure out, okay, what's going on, and so we had to have one TV on in the newsroom, and then a second TV in a separate office had the other match going. And so literally it's like running back and forth and trying to figure out, okay, what's going on here? What's permutations? How much time is left? How much time was added on? Chaos, I tell you, chaos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. It was Costa Rica tried.
Yes, they did.
Mama tried. Dad tried. Keylor Navas. He did everything he could, but Kai Havertz comes in and just ruins his dreams, ruins his day, which sucked because for a minute there we were staring at a group where Spain and Germany were going to go home. For about 3 minutes we had that. As it stands, Japan with all of 17% possession goes through and
lowest ever in the history of history. 17% possession.
It was wild, and it's the thing is like now they get Croatia. That's interesting because Croatia will carry the ball, and Japan's kind of like the kind of whole thing is they don't really care. Mm-hmm. They don't need it because they know they can be efficient when they get it, which is what they've done this tournament. Especially like in the second half of that game, it was just basically they had the ball for a couple minutes, scored a couple goals, and then just let Spain have it, and then Japan built what amounted to a moat around the box, yes. in front of the box, in front of the goal. It's like that zone 14 area where they basically told Spain, you're not going to be able to play combinations through the middle. Mm-hmm. If you would like to get the ball into the box, you're going to have to cross it from the outside, which is not their strength, which is not a bad strategy there because, at least then if Spain does get it done, they did it doing it in the weakest way that they know how. But I was also impressed how many people don't know how spheres work.
Yeah, we got to get into that, no doubt.
Because of the second Japan goal, if you haven't seen it, the ball's going out. I forget who had I know Daisen Maeda dove for it and couldn't reach it. I forget who the left winger, I think it was, who got it. But he gets it as it's going over the line. And I mean, the still shot of it is as close as humanly possible for a ball to be clear of the end line without going over. The bottom of the ball goes over the line, but again, spheres are three-dimensional objects, and the bottom of the ball does not equal the ball entirely. Mm-hmm. And they look at it. It's weird because he gets around to it, flips it back into the box. I think I think the Spanish defender switches off for maybe a quarter of a second. And Japan's able to get to it, put it in the back of the net. They're looking at a 2-1 lead. All of a sudden, boom.
Yeah.
They're in the lead 2-1, and they're able to ride it out from there. I saw Burns' comments last night about Germany that as much as, we were expecting a lot of controversy and drama because of that goal. Because it was such a controversial sort of situation where, the ball may have been out, then it wasn't out. The bottom line is Germany didn't get the job done. I think that was Burns' takeaway from it. It was a lot of the talk in Germany is not so much about, Japan didn't bail us out, or Spain didn't bail us out, or the ref messed something up. It was Germany didn't get the job done.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was a weird group. It was a tough group because Germany loses game 1 to Japan in a similar fashion, where Germany gets up, Japan hits them with a 2-piece combo, and then rides it out. They get the draw against Spain, and then Füllkrug doesn't start yesterday for Germany, which I thought was weird because you need. I mean, I know you were kind of dependent on. You were expecting Spain to beat Japan, but you needed to basically try and bury Costa Rica as much as humanly possible, and they weren't able to do that because when at the end of it, because Japan got that win, it came down to goal differential, and Spain had 6, Germany had 1, and this is also the thing why this is a good lesson as to why don't be mad at Spain for racking up goals on Costa Rica in game 1. Don't be mad at England for racking up goals on Iran in game 1, because when game 3 rolls around and that second spot is equal on points, it comes down to goal differential and goals for. You're going to be glad your boys just absolutely dropped a nuke on the team in front in game 1.
Yes.
Because if Spain had called off the dogs, let's say Spain calls off the dogs against Costa Rica and they win like 3-1.
Yeah.
Or 3-0. Knock a bunch of goals off that tally. You're getting into a really tight situation at that point. So this is why in the first or second game, if someone is up and you have and they are on the ground and you have the opportunity to completely obliterate them, you do it because you need that goal differential, because you don't want to be in a situation where it's going to matter. Hello there, Mexico.
Yes.
Hello there, Poland. So Spain did their job in that regard in game 1. They weren't able to break down Japan, but now they get Morocco, which feels like a better matchup for them. Japan, Costa Rica feels like it could be a sneaky kind of upset.
Oh, Japan, Croatia,
yeah. If you want like the trendy upset, if you told me Croatia goes in front because Luka Modric or somebody else on that team does something brilliant, and then Japan hits them with a 2-piece again, just like they've done to Germany and Spain, I'd believe it.
Yeah,
it just seems to be Japan's MO. Bottom line is Germany's out, and that's 2 straight World Cups they have not gotten out of the group stage, and it's wild, but it's also unacceptable for the Germans.
Absolutely.
Speaking of a flag that is also black and yellow and red, another team with that flag combination also went out yesterday, John.
Yeah. Oh goodness. And now the question is, did Roberto Martinez moonwalk out of his pitch side interview?
I mean, however he left, he's out. He's done, and so passes a golden generation for Belgium. There's a lot of conversation about this yesterday about how do we define a golden generation? Is it a failure? Is it success? How do we define success and failure? Because they finished 3rd in the last World Cup. With that generation in Belgium, I think it was a failure because you did not win a Euro or did not win a World Cup.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is a failure to me because that team, the amount of talent you had on that team for the last 12 years that was entering, during, and at the tail end of their prime, you weren't able to get it done. And I think personally, it's a failure. They didn't lift at least some piece of hardware, one of those 2 main pieces of hardware, be it a Euro or being a World Cup. If y'all feel differently, that's fine. Because third place at the World Cup in 2018 is nothing to sneeze at all. I thought they were destined for more, but watching them in this World Cup this year, they were just so rare.
I mean, when Kevin De Bruyne says we're too old to win the World Cup,
I mean,
dude wasn't wrong.
Courtois out there standing on his head doing what he can, but it was just so blah. And then the guy I feel bad for a lot of these guys.
Lukaku, oh my goodness.
Yeah, Lukaku's the one that I feel the worst for because he's going to have nightmares about that game. Because he had plenty of chances. He had a couple of absolutely like, hey, just literally turn your body 3 degrees one direction, the ball's going to trickle into the net on accident.
I know.
It's almost he made mistakes where you're like, how did you keep the ball out? It was harder not to score than it was to score.
Yeah.
And it's tearing him up. I feel insanely sorry for him also because you're catching some racial abuse because of it because people are trash sometimes.
Yes.
And I mean, look, good, bad, or otherwise, that's like whether a performance is good, bad, or otherwise, it's never acceptable. We don't have to rehash racism down here because it's exhausting, but let's do it anyway because it's absolute trash that anyone would racially abuse the guy for that.
Yes.
Because I promise you they're not racially abusing Kevin De Bruyne. Racially abusing
Joshua Kimmich.
Yeah. Kimmich's not getting racially abused. But whatever. People are trash, and I hope that Lukaku is able to block that out and carry on with what's been a great career and enjoy what's kind of the twilight of that career.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, where Belgium goes here, I don't know. That'll be interesting. Where Roberto Martinez goes from here, I don't know. That will be interesting.
He'll go back to the desk, I think. I think Roberto was comfortable behind the desk. I think he might go there for at least that year that we always talk about with college football, where insert coach here goes to be a pundit for a year and then something pops open and then you go over there. But, I mean, is this Roberto Martinez? What if you were to ask Roberto Martinez, hey, dude, what else, do you think you want to accomplish? It might be another national team gig trying to make a run to chase after that mythical world title.
It might be. And yeah, Jason, Lukaku was amazingly awful in front of goal. He was. Uncharacteristically, because, like, think about those chances. If you're Belgium, who else do you want him to fall to in those moments? The guy who can poach it. It worked out the way you needed it to. He just wasn't able to finish the drill. Tom's point, Italy missed the last 2 World Cups. Germany, Belgium out early. Japan, Senegal, Morocco, USA going on. The world is changing. It is. And okay, let's expand on this a bit while we have a few minutes before we get a visitor at 9:30.
Right.
For the Germans, Thomas Müller says he's done with the national team. And it's all changing. Like, a lot of these players that we're familiar with are starting to get to the point where they're aging out of it, where they're going to be done. Like I'm going to go play my club games, and then I'm going to go home and enjoy my money and enjoy my life. So now we're getting to a point where a lot of these guys that we've come to know for the last decade are aging out of it. Either they're getting too old to do it, or they're walking away from the national team. So, yeah, where does it go from here? Who are the next powers? Because look, I mean, as much as we love what Messi's been doing, Messi's near the end. I won't completely rule out that he plays in 20. If he doesn't win it this year, like if they finish like 3rd this year, I could see him like being like, nah, I'm going to do the 26 World Cup one more time.
Okay.
I'm just going to try. If he gets so close and doesn't get it, I could see him like going back and deciding like.
So he goes into a cryogenic chamber the moment that the tournament is over, and he comes back out at the age of 35, 4 years from now.
Yes.
And
I could see him at least, and not even like starting, but at least trying to be. And because like, if Messi told you at 39, like, hey, this team is a favorite to win the World Cup, I want to be a part of it. Are you going to tell him no?
Yeah, you're going to tell Lionel Messi no.
You're going to find a spot. You're going to find a spot for him, even if it's like, at the end of the bench. Like you're going to play. You're going to be the victory cigar. That kind of thing. And who's to say what he would or wouldn't do at 39? But I do wonder if they get so close and don't get it done this year, if that's something he would consider.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is going to be wild to see. Yeah, Luka's going to be playing. Modric's going to be playing in the 2026 World Cup, Sean. And he's going to be good too. Like he's just always going to be good. I'm very interested to see how this balance of power goes going forward. Credit to Morocco, first African nation to win the group in 25 years, I think.
Yeah, very
26
cool.
years.
Very cool.
And Croatia gets through. Canada. Okay, let's have a quick conversation about this group.
Well, because I mean, Bart, I know is going to want to talk about it again at 10 o'clock, so you can.
I'll bring it up with Bart.
Okay.
But in case I'm not able to make 10 o'clock with Bart.
Okay.
As much as people are fawning over John Herdman, that team just got obliterated in 3 games, and Greg Berhalter is going through to the group stages. So maybe spread some of those feelings around a little bit. Like, it's not just, I mean, look, I know this was Canada's first time in a long time, but Canada didn't exactly cover themselves in glory.
No,
and we don't have to keep like fawning over John Herdman and trashing Berhalter.
Well,
I'm not a huge Berhalter fan either, but
right,
he's done the job. He's put the guys in the right positions. The Reina stuff is weird.
Yeah,
but he's pulled the right strings, even when I thought he pulled the wrong strings, a la CCV playing center back in the last matchup. I have a lot of I have a lot of questions about where Canada goes. So it's like, Hardman got you through, but what's the ceiling on that?
Yeah,
but it sounds like they're going to keep him.
Yeah, and I mean the bottom line for me, and yesterday, if you missed it on the World Soccer Review, Christian Jack at One Soccer had his end of group stage soliloquy monologue analysis, and that's on that particular program. So if you want to go back and listen to Christian Jack's analysis of Canada, you can go back and do so. But you have a guy in John Herdman, and you can also listen to our friends at the Fired Up Network here, and we've posted their Canadian men's national team programming as well. Every time there's a match and there's analysis or anything like that, we posted that too. So if you want to get the Canadian perspective, you can get that from our friends at Fired Up Network. You have a coach who basically decided to bow up and mouth off after a first match day loss, and that didn't go well. It started great in that second match when you were attempting to F Croatia, but they decided
Croatia woke up.
Yeah, then Croatia, being down 1-0 in the first 10 minutes, they woke up. And then when the match is over, you don't go and shake your compatriot's hand. And then in the third match, it looked like stylistically or, tactically, you were all over the place and you got thumped again. You were one goal away from being tied for the worst team in the tournament. And the worst team in the tournament was the host nation in the group stage. So everybody's looking at John Herdman going, oh, this was fantastic. Look, yeah, you were the top dog in CONCACAF. We get that. But there's some stuff that you got to work on in the tournament when you're in a World Cup, whether it's approach, whether it's PR, whether it's how you handle yourself. And the question for me, Jared, is John Herdman going to stay?
I think he is. I believe I saw that his job is safe. I'm still very much a one cycle per coach kind of person. It's unprecedented success for Canada. If you think you can repeat it, then you're going to do that and expect better for the next World Cup. I mean, you don't have to qualify for the next one because it's going to be in your country partially. So that's good news for Canada. But can they build on this? Because you had a couple of really cool moments in this. You have the penalty early against Belgium that could have shifted that game completely if he goes in. I still don't hate Davies taking it because he's taken them in the past. You get the lead on Croatia, and then Croatia just wakes up and you're just not really ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
And the Morocco, like the first goal against Morocco is just really bad giveaway.
Borjan
really bad.
Borjan should have worn his long pants.
Yeah, it's really bad from Borjan. I'm very interested to see how Canada plays going forward. It sounds like his job is safe.
Yep.
What's the ceiling? What's the ceiling with him? Because that's a talented group of players, I think, going forward.
Yep. And so we're going to tag you out and tag somebody in.
You're absolutely underselling the Ghana-Uruguay game today, by the way, at 2 o'clock, because there's going to be blood.
Yeah, there is. And so thank you. So hopefully you can come back at 10 o'clock with Bart Keeler. Yep. So there goes Jarrett. And there's the man himself. All right, what's the mug, Greg?
Always.
There it is. Yes.
Olaje.
There you go. All right.
Which, by the way, hey, both players from Mexico.
Yeah.
That scored the other day.
Yeah, Xolos. There you go.
They came from here. I watched both those guys grow up. From
See,
little kids into being stars, man.
All right. So you wanted to talk World Cup, so we'll talk World Cup, and then there were a couple of other things that were mentoring questions that I had from what we've been seeing with the men's national team. All right. So you have seen the chaos, and I know that there are moments. Oh, silly me. First and foremost, how was your Thanksgiving?
It was great, buddy. I saw you the day after.
I know, but still, the folks
for an instant.
For the folks that get to listen and or watch, they haven't seen you in two or three years.
Very true.
We got to catch everybody else up on
great Thanksgiving. I actually spent it with a nobody named Michael Parker. So
I heard it.
It was great. It was really great. I was really really fun to spend Thanksgiving with him and his family and get everybody together and enjoy that moment for sure.
All right, and then we got to see each other for the first half of the match on Black Friday at Wild Heaven, and I know a lot of folks were happy to see you there. 2,000 folks. Greg Garza and 2,000 of his friends were hanging out at Wild Heaven.
It was unbelievable. I cannot believe there were that many people.
And when you look at the men's national team through that match and what they've been able to do so far to get out of the group stage in a win-and-in situation, all the pressure that's attached to it. When you look at the men's national team, what have you seen so far from them in the group stage?
I've seen fight. I've seen desire. I've seen growth, organization. Trying to come up with all the adjectives that I can and to try and to describe as much as I've seen. I will say I want to see more, right? Yeah. Because I think, holding those guys to a high level of expectation is much needed with the talent that is within that group. I still don't think we've seen the best version of the USMNT so far. I think they've done well, but I think they can be even better.
What's missing?
I think free-flowing, allowing talent to play a role within the games, right? I feel like they've been almost, and you've kind of seen it within this. This is going to be my quote, and I'm sorry if somebody tells me I'm falling short, but this has been the most underwhelming World Cup I've seen in my lifetime so far.
Really?
Yeah. I feel that there's been very few exciting games. I feel like I could fall asleep in most of them. But it's, I think that's what's missing for me. I think, man, we have so many players that can change a game in a split second. And I want to see more of those guys, Christian, Weston, Timmy, these kids that are able to, even Gio. I want to see Gio have a chance to come on and do something, special and do something that we saw within the Mexico match when he came in and took on every player besides the goalie. I think that's more of what I want to see from us. And that probably that message goes out to every other team that I've watched so far. I think there has to be a way to I maybe out of all the games that I've seen, I can maybe pick on one hand of the games that I was like nail biter excitement, which is what you want out of World Cup. I think we've gotten into this and we've gotten into this realm of how organized you can play to try and get a result out, which is understandable. But come on, we need entertainment as well within a world stage, and I haven't seen too much of that within this World Cup.
Let's get into the Gio Reyna situation here a little bit. And, I think it's safe to say that the way it has been handled in press conference situations and in scrums is a bit odd. But I would also posit that, with Greg Berhalter saying one thing, Gio Reyna saying something else, and when it comes to percentages and wanting to play and all that kind of stuff. But I would also posit, and you've been a part of this in competitions as well, where if you have a manager or a head coach in a situation that is as pressure-packed as a world competition is, or chasing an MLS Cup, or whatever a Liga MX title, that you don't want to give your opponent one less thing to worry about. And if someone isn't 100%, you're still going to sit there and say, no, it's cool. And he goes out and practices, and everybody sees the guy practice and all that kind of stuff. You want to give your opponent the opportunity. They have to be sure that they're prepared for everything, even though you may not be giving them everything when it comes to play. I think that it's cool for somebody to sit there and say that player X, that Greg's good to go. Greg's 100%. He's good to go. And then, obviously, okay, so we got to prepare for Greg Garza, and then Greg doesn't happen. So your take on the idea of Greg Berhalter and Gio Reyna, and the idea that if Gio, even if he isn't able to play, still present the notion that he is, to give the opponent something to think about.
There's been a lot of talk around that as well, right? I think maybe Eric Winalda had said something the other day as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of speculation, and sometimes I think it's just drama to be created, right? Trying to find some drama within. But I think as long as within that group, and as long as within that locker room, which is ultimately sacred, as long as there's understanding between all of them there, then I think they'll be okay. On Gio's perspective, it is, man, he has to be ready for whatever is to happen, right? He has to be absolutely ready that if he does get a nod, whatever time and whatever moment it is, I mean, we're talking about a guy that was, considered within the 10 prospects to watch within the whole entire World Cup. That's a very small number out of, I mean, how many players on each team? 25 players, and how many teams? So gosh, you can do the math quickly for
25 and 32, 640 and 160, like 800 players.
10 players out of 800 players to be named in a list to watch in the World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
And all these other players, right? You have even Phil Foden that's within that list as well. That's probably going through very similar. I wonder what England's drama is right now of why Phil Foden hasn't touched the field as often.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, he comes into the game against Wales and he tears it up, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think for Gio, it's got to be one of those things to where he's absolutely ready. In whatever moment. I can kind of use a great example, even with us within the 2018 run, was Miles Robinson coming in at center back within the second game of New York City FC at home. That was I think maybe the third game he had played all season, right? And you come in a moment to where it's a great moment to shine, and he absolutely tore it up, right? That was one of the best games I've seen Miles play. And obviously I got to share the field with him there, right? But it's a game to where you never know when you're going to get the nod, but you always have to be ready. And I think it can be any time whatsoever for Gio, but at the same time, it's difficult, right? Because then you think on the analyzing it more from the outside perspective and not being on the inside anymore. Obviously, you root for him to be on the field, but when something's not broke, you don't change it, right? And that's Greg Berhalter's mind right now, obviously, right? More than absolutely anything. And every coach might say, all these guys need to be ready, whatever it may be. But when it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? And so, it's probably gonna look very similar to what we've seen the past 3 games.
All right, so let's talk chemistry a little bit from the mentoring perspective. And I know that a lot of folks at the back were concerned where you had Walker Zimmerman and Tim Ream as your 2 center backs. And then you bring in CCV, Cameron Carter-Vickers, to be paired with Tim Ream for that all or nothing game. When you talk to your mentors, when you talk to your mentees as a mentor about chemistry and understanding, what you're talking about with Gio Reyna being ready to parachute in, and the concerns about chemistry, especially for something that's key as the center back position. What are those conversations like with your mentees about chemistry and being ready to jump in at a moment's notice?
it's all about building relationships, right? You have to understand how those outside relationships can help implement those great relationships also within the field. And what I mean by those outside relationships is how in sync, how in tune are you with those two guys that are next to you, right? Sometimes, I mean, we use the most important shape within soccer, right? Is obviously a triangle turns into a diamond. You want those all over the field. And you as a player, it also, that triangle, that triangulation of creating those relationships has to be the exact same way, right? Before every single game of within myself in particular, I would go over to LGP and talk right before the whistle blew, right? Because that was my partner, right? And the same year, 2017, I would look in front of me. In 2018, it was a little different because we had so many guys come in. But I would look over and I'd look at Yamil Assad right before the game. I would go and talk to him, and that was the relationship that we had. Off the field, our relationship was also very tight-knit, right? So for those guys that understanding your role, and then when we talk to our mentees, obviously understanding your role, that we can use the example of Gio, but understanding how important those relationships are on the field are extremely, extremely important. Having that best relationship as a teammate and building that other guy up and understanding where you guys need to be. Hey, I got you if this happens. Hey, I'll cover you if this happens. Be sure to watch this play. Be sure to watch this guy. Whatever it may be, just helping each other understand. And I think so far, Tim Ream has, in my opinion, has done an absolute fantastic job in being that guy, right? That unsung hero, that, you know, unspoken of leader that's not wearing the captain's armband, right? And I think, you know, he's been that guy that he's probably created everybody that's playing with him and beside him have a great relationship with. And you need that guy on your team, and he's done extremely well. Tim Ream is what? I think he's 35.
Yeah, 35.
35. To be 35, to never play in a World Cup before. That's my question is, I wonder how many guys there are that make a World Cup team at the age of 35 and never been to a World Cup before. That's got to be never be involved in the World Cup cycle before. And so I'm extremely happy for him. That shows a huge word that we speak about with our mentees. It shows resilience. It shows you never give up. You keep on fighting because you never know when your name can be called. I just posted something on Instagram, and I wish there was a translation for it, but Luis Enrique is doing a podcast like every night. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah.
To connect with fans. A Twitch. He does a Twitch. And it's so cool to see the things that he talks about. And he just shoots the crap, right? Shoots the crap with all of his fans and kind of gives them a different perspective on things to look for. And been pretty cool to watch. And one of the things that I love that he said, it might have been last night. I saw someone post it this morning. But it was just talking about the 1%, right? And just talking about kids enjoying soccer, enjoying, the game. And man, I wish there was I hope if there's a translation for it, I will definitely be posting it as well. But it's such an interesting video to watch because he's very blunt. He's very honest with his answer, but just trying to help everyone understand about the fun factor and how important it can be. Within these kids' growth and within their mentality of how they grow. So that's been also, there's been some cool things to see within this World Cup. That's definitely one of them that I'd like to point out. That's if anybody speaks Spanish, tune in to Luis Enrique and his Twitch, whatever his Twitch channel is, to learn some cool facts and things that have some have nothing to do with what's going on at the World Cup.
I mean, because shooting the ish with Luis Enrique is never a bad thing.
I mean, you got a guy that's been very successful in his career and also within his coaching career. So I'm sure it's pretty cool to do.
The joke running around, at least in the U.S. men's national team circles after the group stage, is that the world is covered by 70% water and the rest of it is covered by Tyler Adams.
That is very true. He's one of those guys that just, we always talk, and I always tell mentees, and I always ask mentees, I always tell them, have you ever played against a kid to where you're like, oh my gosh, just stop, right? The most annoying player that you've ever played against on the field that you just want to be like, dude, just relax, right? just stop. That's Tyler Adams. And every kid will say, oh my gosh, this one player that I played against the other week, he was the most annoying kid that I ever played against. And that's Tyler Adams. And he does a great job at it because he is the most annoying player probably at the World Cup. Right? And you need a guy like that. It's so bad to play against, but it's so great to play with, right? And you need a guy like that on your team, and he has been that one guy that has done that, right? He's all over the pitch. You look in production of, maybe the attack or whatever it may be, plays very simple. He understands the simplicity of the game, doesn't produce much there, which is perfectly fine because you need that pit bull mentality guy to break up plays and to be there when, you don't think anybody else is. And he is that guy. He is that most annoying player that's created success for him for doing that. It's just that it's his mentality. It's his work rate.
What's it like to see mentees be those annoying players and have that work rate and it might be somebody who, when you first started working with them, didn't show that 100% of the time. But then after all of the work that you and Michael get to do with them, to see that switch flipped, what's it like to see a player that has promise develop into that really annoying guy that you love to have on your team, but you hate to play against?
Especially the kids that we get to do video analysis with, and see their games and see how they've developed and see how they've grown into the player that they want to be. That's the most gratifying, piece of it, right? Of what we do, right? Seeing them grow into their full potential and become a player that they truly want to become. And it just takes sometimes to flip a switch within their brain or an outside voice to not necessarily be their mom or dad's. They're just going through one ear and right out of the other, and having somebody just really tell them, something similar, but something that will stick and allow them to understand the importance of being, like I said, that annoying player, right? And I always tell people, even today, right, is I didn't do nothing, and I didn't do anything special when I played either, right? But I was a very annoying player to play against as well, right? Because I was that guy that was always, everybody was probably asking, why the heck is this guy still making overlapping runs, right? And it could have been every time I got the ball out wide, I was making an overlapping run. If anybody tells me from Atlanta, they'd be like, man, I used to love the overlapping runs you used to make, right? Because it was the whole entire game and it was nonstop. And it created a numerical advantage and it created a 2v1. So, I wasn't thinking about necessarily for me to get the ball. I was just thinking about hopefully creating space for Yamil or whoever, Barco, whoever it was, Miggy, to cut inside and produce something that they could produce. But I did it over and over and over again. And there's probably so many players on the field that just say, holy crap, can this kid stop doing overlapping runs? And that just goes again to being that, annoying player, understanding the value of being that annoying player. And Tyler Adams he's the epitome of that.
All right. So let's go up top. Question for Jason Nix. With Josh hurt, and once again, he's day to day, aren't we all? Haji Wright not playing great. Who do you think will start up top tomorrow?
Man, that's such a hard question. I think he goes Josh again. Mm-hmm. If Josh is okay. Have they ruled him out?
No, but that was why I wanted to bring up the conversation about Gio Reyna, because when you're especially in the knockouts going up against the Netherlands, a team that I think you can beat, even though the numbers in the juice boxes are pretty big.
Yeah.
It's not a team that's going to sit there and scare the ish out of you.
Right.
But you're not going to give, because Christian Pulisic has a pelvic contusion that caused a lot of us to just kind of sit there and not want to watch a replay of anything ever again. Oh, yeah. But with Josh and his ankle, with Christian Pulisic and his pelvic contusion, and Christian saying, I'm good. Josh Sargent, I don't think we've seen any quotes come out, but you're not going to give the Netherlands something to sit there and say, yeah, we're not going to have Josh Sargent play. We're not going to have Christian play. We're not going to have Christian start. You don't want to give the opposition that kind of ammo. I haven't seen anything that has led me to believe that neither one of them will be involved.
Right. That's I think if they're both okay, they will both play. That's my personal opinion. If Josh is not able to start, I think he goes again with Wright. I think once again, it just goes from a coaching perspective, unless he's just a little bit crazy and says, hey, he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed one day and says, hey, I think I might, do something a little different. But thinking about from a coach's perspective of what I've seen and what I've dealt with in my career in the past, coaches usually don't change things within those major tournaments, right? And you see it very, very, very rarely, especially if you're in that right path and everybody else from the outside sees you be in the right path. Because if you do that and something messes up and it doesn't work out, then that'll be the big if, what, why, when, where, that'll create the coulda, woulda, shoulda conversations. So
all those 4 W's and the 4 W's in the H that always end up coming up after matches. The U.S. is in the round of 16. There are 2 other nations in CONCACAF that are not, Canada and Mexico. And, obviously when the final whistle blew in group stage, Tata Martino was, his contract was up. He was not going to be renewed. He's gone. What's it like to see a big gun like Mexico, a big gun like Belgium, a big gun like Germany not make it into the round of 16, and you have all of these fresh faces like a Morocco winning a group stage, those kinds of things? What's it like to see the fresh faces and a lot of the big guns not be a part of the round of 16?
It gives me hope that we are that much closer into getting closer to what our true objective is as an American, right? That's the only idea that it gives me, is that we are that much closer. Seeing all these smaller, soccer countries have the ability to have success just gives, I think, us Americans and soccer fans in the States hope. It gives us hope that we can also achieve something that's big. There is not, and I mean, don't get me wrong, there is not one American, even if they are in the chat or even if they are, the 2,000 people that are there at Wild Heaven, there is not one American that you can say, who do you have winning the World Cup? And there's not one of those people that's saying USA. Mm-hmm. Every single person that's there. And we did the Soccer in the Streets gala the other night. There was not one player, there was not one person that raised their hand saying that US was going to win the World Cup. Every single person, and even myself. If you were to ask me, I'll probably say, yeah, I think Argentina or Brazil are probably going to win the World Cup.
Yeah.
But now seeing these big dogs get out, right, it gives you that much more hope, and realizing that we are that much closer in getting towards having that opportunity to win a World Cup. Croatia proved us all wrong 4 years ago. And now Morocco is proving us wrong. Japan is proving us wrong. All these smaller countries and smaller soccer countries are starting to make a name for themselves, and the organization and implementing more money towards the growth of their nation within soccer shows us Americans that, we're a step closer into achieving something that could be beautiful.
So then let me ask you this. You're Grand Exalted Poobah of soccer in the United States for a day. What do you do as Grand Exalted Poobah to continue to close that gap? It could be something on the youth level. It could be something involving mentoring. It could be something, obviously throwing money at the problem obviously would be a good start. But I mean, philosophically, how would you continue to close the gap for the United States so they could be challenging in those deep runs in world tournaments?
Man, that is got to be the hardest question you've ever asked me.
You're the boss, man. You're the boss, and you can dictate it however you want to do.
I wish I knew that answer, but I think. Do you continue down the path that you're on right now and kind of continue to grow the sport as much as possible? I think implementing the MLS academies has done a huge, plus to all these players that are able to play on scholarship and able to, not pay to play, and finding more talent within that. I think creating more opportunities, in my personal opinion, creating more opportunities to take away the pay to play would even close that gap a little more within the future, and finding ways to maybe have sister schools or whatever it may be of the MLS academies, and providing more opportunities for kids from lesser income communities or underserved communities to also have the ability to show their talent. And that would be That would be my personal opinion, and that would be my, my objective if I were in his shoes.
How far have we come since you started playing the sport here in the United States? How far have we really come?
That's another hard question, because there are so many. I feel that there are so many different pathways now to create success, but is the business side of it, of the pay to play and all of these other pathways that are being created, is that watering it down, right? And that's the major question that we have to ask. There was a post, I believe 3 weeks ago, and it was on the front page of the Washington Post, in the state of Washington, and on the front page, and it said the $1 billion sport, right? Soccer is now the sport that creates and generates the most revenue within the United States, for youth sports. And of course, it's such an expensive. I mean, even for my 9 and 5-year-old, my 5-year-old who plays, you're paying up to 4 digits a year, right, for a 5-year-old to play soccer.
Wow.
And that's excluding all of his uniforms, right? And that's an average American. I'm sorry, with what the inflation rate is right now and how the United States is shaping up within the recession, is I don't see it feasible, and I don't see it tangible or possible for a lot of families to do that. And so I think from when I started to play, I was able to play in an all Hispanic league when I was a kid and still make something out of it, right? Whereas today, I think if a kid decides to do that, they're not going to make something out of it, because there's not going to be any eyes that are there to watch them, right? You have to sometimes pay the highest price to have people view and watch you where you are, in today's world. So do I think the development of creating certain academies is really helping? But I think the business side of it kind of gets away from us, and not allowing, even more of that development to happen, kind of watering it down and points of it. So I hope to bridge that gap as much as possible in the future. And that's just obviously a wish to see us get that much closer to achieving, world greatness on a level of soccer that I think we can achieve.
And I know that you and Michael and Beyond Goals, you're doing that, and there's you're giving financial assistance. There's a discount code for folks that want to pair up with you as mentee mentor relationships here during the holiday season. Go ahead and talk.
Yep. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, for sure. Obviously we're offering a discount code. We know, we've been lucky and fortunate enough to be able to share our wisdom and knowledge, and we understand that has value. And for families that would love to be involved, we are offering a discount code for the whole month of December. And at the same time, we work with so many kids pro bono. We are able to use the nonprofit side of things. And that's what we look to do in the future as well. So if anybody wants to get involved within the nonprofit side and help out kids from underserved communities, also have the right guidance and mentorship, that's what we love to do. And that's what we love, in giving back to a game that gave so much to us. So anyone who wants to get involved, let us know. Feel free to reach out.
All right. And so what do you think is going to happen this weekend with the U.S. and Switzerland?
The
Dutch.
What's that? Did you say Switzerland?
Yeah, I meant the Dutch. The Netherlands and Switzerland, they're not quite the same.
I don't know if you can say the Dutch, because if you say the Dutch and you're close to a German, they might be like, you can't
True.
say that.
Netherlands. Right? There we go.
The Netherlands, right?
Yes, Netherlands.
Yeah, it's I always loved having the coaches from the Netherlands, right? Because every th, they can't say their th, they say D's.
It's a D.
Yeah. So they say we gotta work together. Right?
Two D's.
Yeah. Man, anything can happen. I look back in a game that I was supposed to play. But I actually had surgery up to that game, and it's when we traveled and played against Germany and the Netherlands. This was in 2015. Yeah, this was in 2015. I want to say right before Copa America. I was supposed to be on that trip, and that was when I was starting as a left back with the men's national team. and I decided to get surgery right before that. So, you know, and we won that game 4-3. It was an absolute amazing game. If anybody remembers that game, it was unbelievable. Bobby Wood was on one. So, that was and that just shows you, and it was in Holland. So, I think if someone can remember that game, anything can happen. Right.
Okay. All right. So we'll be keeping up with you. And where are you going to be watching, by the way? Where are you going to be watching the match?
This is the really sad part. I have to coach my son's game at 9:40 in Gwinnett County. So I will be probably celebrating on my phone while I am watching. I already sent a message in Team Snap to all the parents, and I said, look, I'm supposed to coach the game, but I'm just gonna let the kids play. So unfortunately, I got called upon to help them. So I will be watching the game from my phone, sitting on the bench with the other kids that are on the bench with me. And if I celebrate and we don't score right at the fields that I'm at, because I'm celebrating something else. So all the parents already know.
Oh, Greg, it's always great to catch up with you, my friend. The 10 o'clock games have kicked off, including South Korea and Portugal. So go enjoy your Friday, my friend. Thanks for hanging out with us. Be good, and we'll catch up soon.
Take care, bud.
All right, Greg Garza from Beyond Goals Mentoring. And so that means that he is tagging out. That means that this guy is tagging in. And let me send the tweet that you're tagging in, sir. So I've officially sent the tweet that you have tagged in. Bart Keeler, SoccerforUS POD. And I know that you had a topic that you wanted to lead off with. So let me go ahead and throw the batting practice pitch, and we'll go ahead and lay it out for you. We have the 10 o'clock games that have kicked off, and Portugal has not scored in the first 2 minutes. But there's one team in CONCACAF that has made it to the round of 16. There are two others that have not. And I believe, sir, that as I throw you this 55-mile-an-hour fastball right down the middle, how would you differentiate the one club that has made it into 16 from the two that have not?
We're just built different, man. We're built different. No, I think legitimately, here's the thing, right? I think what you're seeing is that the United States men's national team, our program as a whole, is at a more advanced stage than Canada's is right now. And we're in a better state than what Mexico's is right now. Now, Mexico has a lot of problems they need to figure out with their internal footballing development. But I think more than anything, they need to figure out the structure of Liga MX and if it's holding them back or not, to be quite honest. Because the one thing that MLS, though it may not be as quality of a league as Mexico, I think we can say this top to bottom, that Mexico does have some very good teams. The United States league system, be it USL or MLS, is set up to get players developed and send them to better leagues. Liga MX is struggling to send their best players to better leagues, and that's hindering the Mexican national team right now. So, Mexico, they just had a bad cycle. I think let's not say they're finished or washed necessarily, although that's fun to say.
Yeah,
it's fun to call them LLL tree or Mexico, but I think this is a down cycle for Mexico. On the flip side, Canada, what happened, man? Like, Kings of CONCACAF, best team in the region. We're going to go smoke everyone at the World Cup because we're Canadians and we've got Alphonso Davies and a bunch of guys who think they're good. Congratulations, Canada. You scored 2 goals. You got bounced out of the World Cup after the knockout rounds. Did not get a win. Do you feel better about yourselves now? Do you feel better? Because what it takes to win at the World Cup is more than one good player and some other good supporting cast members. It takes a full team of guys committed to winning. It takes a full team of good players. And at this point, the United States has, in our full starting 11, very good players. You cannot say the same for Canada right now. Also, as much as we love Atiba Hutchinson here, I think you got to admit the fact that maybe a guy who's closer to 40 than he is, 30 is not necessarily the best option to play.
Right there.
Yeah. That's not the best option. So, look, Canada had a lot of momentum coming into this World Cup. They had a lot of momentum after World Cup qualifying. And more than the players or even John Herdman, let's look at what Canada soccer did or John didn't do.
Yeah.
In that time between, topping the qualifying group, the octagonal in March to now. And the quite honest answer is they have not supported their players very well. You've heard this from the women's side. You've heard it from the men's side. Canada soccer needs to figure themselves out, because if you want to be a serious contender, not just in CONCACAF, but on the world stage, you've got to take care of your players. Costa Rica understands that. I think that the Costa Rican Federation is doing a fantastic job of showing how to build a sustainable program. They actually showed a lot better than I think most people did or thought during this tournament. But Canada, don't talk smack if you're not going to back it up. I mean, also maybe this is my overall take on the Canadians. Maybe outperforming both your XG and XG allowed throughout the 14 games of qualifying by a lot.
Yes.
Getting very lucky in almost every break going your way. I mean, look at even the result they got against the United States in both of their games. We hit the post twice. Canada got lucky on a bad giveaway up in where were we?
Edmonton?
Hamilton. We were up in Hamilton for that game at Timmy Hode's field.
Yep.
And they got lucky that Pulisic hit the post here in Nashville. Like, everything went right for you. Congratulations. It takes more than just hoping the other team doesn't score at the World Cup. And that's what got them in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
It's great, though. It's great. I feel bad for Costa Rica. They obviously had a valiant effort yesterday and really throughout the tournament. Good job to them. But the fact that Canada goes home scoring 2 goals, getting no points is fantastic.
Well, and also they were 1 goal away, meaning Canada, from being tied for the worst output in the tournament, tied with the host nation. They scored 1 more goal than the host nation, and that was the difference in being next to last and being last, or worst and being next to worst. All right,
congrats, Canada. You're not the worst team at the tournament.
Yeah, there you go. So then let me ask you this. Let me have you put on your journalist hat here for a second involving Canada.
Yeah.
Do you I know how you are when it comes to the United States and coaches and only being around for 1 cycle, etc. Considering what we've seen from John Herdman, do you keep him around for 26, considering everything that has been accomplished by Canada to this point, taking the tournament out of the consideration here? Do you keep Herdman around?
So, yeah, I think, like you said, and I've said many times, my general disposition is don't keep a coach around for a whole second cycle. That said, this is one of those special scenarios where it does do you good to evaluate if this coach is worth continuing. And I think that there are a lot of positives in John Herdman's favor. The first is, obviously, he got this team to the World Cup. And that is something that Canada hasn't done in my lifetime up until now, something that very few people, even you, John, have seen happen in their lifetimes, you know?
Yes.
So that's
since I'm 84 years old, yes.
Right. Mm-hmm. So, that in itself is an accomplishment. I think you also have to look at the fact that during qualifying, they had a very identifiable style of play. Mm-hmm. However, at the World Cup, they did not play that way. They were much more of a front foot aggressive team. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't think they can't do that more frequently in CONCACAF, because that's obviously been the point that Greg Berhalter has tried to make. And, since he got here, is you can't just be a gritty, tough team in CONCACAF, because you're going to face teams that are going to be more than happy to sit back and let you have the ball. So you have to be prepared for that. I would be very hesitant if I were Canada to give him a new contract through the new cycle. But that said, I don't think it would be a bad idea for them to keep Herdman on through at least the next year, through the Gold Cup tournament, to see how he can either turn this team into a slightly different version of themselves, because that's the issue I have with keeping a coach from cycle to cycle. Mm-hmm. Is the style of play, the player selection, all those things get a little too much of the same. And you do need to have fresh eyes, fresh perspectives, and honestly, fresh blood in the camp to make your team better. And so if Herdman can turn the page a little bit, we've closed this chapter of Canadian men's soccer history. congratulations, you made the World Cup. That's fantastic. That is a fantastic achievement in itself. But how do we then, if you're Canada, how do you then evolve from that? And obviously that's the question the United States has to ask themselves too. But I think Canada, more than anything, has more reason to keep a John Herdman, just because it seems like he's making the program go in a way that is really positive. And I think Canada stands to gain a lot more from a playing perspective in that 2026 World Cup than the US, because there's much more of there's higher they can go, if that makes sense.
No, it does. And I mean, I think also on the world stage, I think that John Herdman needs to, I wasn't going to ask what the mug was today, but it looks like it's.
I had to have a to-go cup because I had to go out of the house for an early morning studio hit.
So did you a GMA this morning?
Yeah, I was on Good Day Atlanta this morning. So you're the second, but the most important media hit I've done this morning.
So were you on with Brock Langford and Ron Gant, or who were you?
I was on with Brooks Honor.
Okay.
She does the 9 o'clock hour of Good Day Atlanta. So yeah.
Okay, because I have a lot of friends over there.
I'm sure you do.
White columns in the GTA that get up. Crack of well before anything. But let me get back to John Herdman for a second. And this goes back to, this kind of plays into what the Soccer for Good OG has brought in here. The bad boy a-hole persona does not fit Canada. Literally the nicest people on earth may be opt for a smart, courageous, and relentless. John Herdman.
Well, she doesn't spend much time on Twitter then, because their people are ruthless and mean. Rude Canadians all over Twitter. Rude Canadians who have not taken their slice of humble pie very well at all.
No.
And continue to push the whole, we won the CONCACAF qualifying. That's great. So did the United States in 2006. You saw how that did for us. So look, at the end of the day, qualifying is qualifying. You don't get any extra bonus points for qualifying first or third. You don't even get more bonus points because you qualified fourth.
Yeah, and we do have a goal on the board. Portugal scored in the 6th minute. They lead South Korea 1-0. Ghana and Uruguay, I believe, are waiting for the Luis Suarez PK at the end to give Uruguay full points. So we've got another 70 minutes or so before that.
Yeah, I'm waiting for either Ghana to take a bite literally out of Luis Suarez, or Suarez to do something Suarez-like and get the win for Uruguay.
Absolutely. John Herdman, I think, and to the OG's point, you can't, and I know that this is how Herdman is wired, but you cannot on the world stage, first and foremost, basically go full-blown Masai Ujiri and channel you can't say that you're going to F an opponent. You can't do that. And then you can't for a double negative. My mom's going to really punish me for this, being the English major. You can't not shake the opponent's hand when the match is over.
Yeah.
And there are just things in there that, you're on the world stage and your first time in a long time, you got to play nice. I know that may not necessarily be how John Herdman is wired, considering the post-match speech that he gave after match day 1, where he was, I guess, either letting his team know that they had grapefruits or needed to get them for match day 2. But I think that it was a learning experience for Canada, and I hope it was a learning experience for John Herdman as to how to be on the world stage, despite who your personality says you are.
Well, and I think there's a difference between talking to your team and trying to inspire them, right? Saying we're going to go F Croatia, trying to help move them past a disappointing loss to Belgium after a very good performance. And then continuing to have that kind of brashness and dismissiveness and, quite honestly, rudeness when you actually go as a professional out in life. Because you do, as a coach, have to have a little bit of a different personality with your team than you do in the media, with your team. And I don't think he was wrong to say what he said to his team, right?
Yes.
Again, he's trying to help get them to focus on the next game, telling them how great they did, which is...
I get that.
Yeah, but then you can't go back there and be so disrespectful to your opponent. By the way, an opponent who, if you don't remember, was in the last World Cup final.
Yes.
An opponent who has some of the classiest, and I mean on the field, players that we've seen play this sport. Luka Modric is not just a generational talent. He's one of the greatest who has played that position that we've seen. I mean that sincerely. The way he can pick a pass, those are skills we don't see from a lot of people. And the way he's able to translate that across the field is fantastic. So it does show a disrespect of the tournament and the game as a whole when you don't at least show the opponent the little bit of respect of going over to the bench, shaking their hands, and then you can leave if you want. Yeah. I mean, that's all it takes.
We got a lot of big guns who are not in the round of 16. We have Belgium, who had their coach moonwalk out of his final pitch side interviewing opportunity. And Roberto Martinez is gone. Belgium is out. Kevin De Bruyne said, we're too old to win this thing. He was right. Germany, with the chaos of yesterday, and that was some special kind of chaos that was going on in the 2:00 games. Germany's not in. Mexico is not in. A lot of these big name teams are not in the round of 16. You have Morocco win a group, and you have Japan create chaos as a part of all of that madness that was yesterday. When you look at the big names that are out and the smaller nations that have been developing over time that are now in the round of 16, what's your 30,000-foot view of how the world seems to be closing in on itself when it comes to the talent pool?
Yeah, I think I would be hesitant to say that Germany is somehow bad at soccer. Let's first have that point out of the way. Is they're still a very good soccer nation. They're still a very good nation of good soccer players. I think this particular generation is not as strong as they've had previously. And obviously we saw them at 2018 not make it through either, which, by the way, the United States has never failed to make a knockout round twice in a row. Germany now has. Granted, they've been there a lot longer than we have, but hey, we've at least made it when we've missed it.
Take the compliment when you can and run with it, brother.
Exactly. I think it was more about the fact that Germany as a whole, okay. I don't know if Bernd is in the chat, so I apologize for saying this, but as much as I said that Mexico needs to kind of relook at the way that they build their league structure, I do think Germany might want to consider how they approach the 50+1 rule, if that makes any sense. Mm-hmm. Because I do think that as good as the Bundesliga is from top to bottom, as good as I think Bayern Munich is, you're seeing a lot of their other traditionally strong teams not be able to sustain their might right now. And, I think that you might want to figure out how to inject some more money into the Bundesliga to either A, pay your players better, or B, bring in better talents from all over the world to beef up the competition level in your country. Because that is one thing that makes the Premier League so good, is you have a lot of talent, the best talent in the world. It doesn't necessarily always translate to success on the national team level, but I think the German footballing system is much better than the English footballing system for producing good players. But they just need to figure out how to increase the competition level of their league a little bit, and I think that might help them. But I also think that this particular generation of Germans is just not quite at that level, and they're also a little young. I mean, let's give them that. Kai Havertz, Musiala, they're not old, experienced players. They're not even in their mid-20s at this point. So it's possible to say that they were young and just haven't quite reached their potential as well.
And we've had VAR in Uruguay and Ghana, and it appears after video assistant referee has looked at it, we have a penalty opportunity for Ghana, and the Uruguayans are trying to completely and totally get in a good share of ish housing to try to make sure that the Ghanaians mentally are not attached to this penalty kick attempt that is in the 20th. Darwin Nunez has been given a yellow as a part of all of the ish housing that's going on in the scrum. And so it is on Universo for those that are keeping an eye on. I'm watching. See what I've been doing. I've been watching Telemundo and Universo. I have not been watching the English language coverage here in the United States.
Unless it's a match that I'm actually want to pay attention to in terms of I'm sitting down to watch it. I've watched it on I watch it on Peacock, but it's the Spanish language because they're doing great things with it. Listen, Ghana has a lot of demons to exercise with Uruguay, and a lot of hate to get out of there. So good for them.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
All right, so we are. I'm keeping an eye over my left shoulder since Bart has turned his monitor off this morning.
Yeah, sorry. I got in. You know, I wasn't up in my office. You know, doing things. So, yeah. I love the purposeful tearing up of the spot. Love it. No, they saved it. Oh, yeah. There you go.
Saved it. Absolutely saved it. And the gentleman wearing the armband just happens to be Luis Suarez today for Uruguay.
Shocking.
I know, really. Yeah, and it was not a well taken pen by any stretch of the imagination. So still goalless in the 21st with Ghana and Uruguay. You know, when you look at what we've seen from the United States, what kind of a match are you anticipating tomorrow with the Netherlands?
I think it'll be a little bit more. Our posture will be a little bit more like it was against England, where we were very intent on not conceding. Mm-hmm. Netherlands has a little bit more goal scoring potential than we do, obviously. So I think we're going to have to find our moments to attack and transition. I think that this team is good at that. We have players who are good at that, but I've kind of had this feeling all along, and it sounds really. By the way, John Harks is messaging the AO Atlanta Instagram account, so that's fantastic. Sorry.
Sweet. Well,
that's awesome. I have this feeling, and this sounds so rudimentary, so I'm sorry for it being basic. We're going to have to score this game, you know, and we've struggled to do that. So the question comes, how do we get that goal? We haven't looked great on set pieces. We haven't been able to finish or get that final ball during the run play. It's going to be tough, but this is where it doesn't matter how you win or how you whatever. You've got to do it, right? Like, this isn't the time to be pretty. This isn't the time to be perfect. This is the time to advance. And I think that the Netherlands is susceptible. I mean, I don't think their group was all that hard, to be quite honest. I'm not trying to. I mean, I think Senegal is a good team. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think that the Netherlands group was particularly difficult, especially compared to ours.
Yeah.
But you know, hey, they've 5 goals in 3 games, only conceded 1. That's a really good record, even in a slightly weaker group. So we're gonna have it cut out for us. I mean, I believe in our defensive abilities. We've given up 1 goal, and that wasn't even in the run of play. But Netherlands has some better offensive talent. And we're going to have to score. It might be because we're going to end in a 1-1 draw regulation. We're going to penalty kicks, which will make, I'm sure, every single person super happy, and our blood pressure will be very good for that.
But Matt Turner, when it comes to penalty kick save situations, though.
And that's where I do have, some confidence, to be quite honest, because I think Matt Turner is a very good goalkeeper and has a history of saving penalties. I mean, saved a penalty for the U.S. in his very first start ever. So, those are things that I think we can feel strongly for. But, the Dutch are very good on set pieces. We have done okay defending them, but we just have not scored and looked threatening on set pieces. And that concerns me, because those things can make a difference in this round where things are going to be tight. You're going to be less adventurous. I think, getting a set piece goal would be huge. I'm not confident in that. But as long as we can keep them off the board from set pieces, I think that in particularly would be a very big win for the U.S. And look, at the end of the day, we're not expected to win. This is not like, if you're feeling pressure, it's just the pressure to win a knockout round game. The Dutch are the ones with the pressure on them right now. We're playing with house money. Go out there, have fun, and don't be afraid to take a gamble, because if it ends up in a mistake, it ends up in a mistake. Oh well. But it could also, we were a little timid even against Iran. You got to have it in your head that you want to be that hero. That's what I'm hoping to see tomorrow, is who's going to be our hero.
Jason Nix comes in.
Yes, I'm aware.
Yes, scoring more in the Eredivisie than Cody Gakpo, Ricardo Pepi. And so then, all right, let's go up top. And do you? And once again, the injury subterfuge, I don't mind, especially in a knockout. where Christian Pulisic has his pelvic contusion, and Josh Sargent, that is always a tough back-to-back. Day-to-day with an ankle. I mean, aren't we all day-to-day at the end of it all? I don't mind the injury subterfuge one bit. What do you do up top?
I'm not confident that Josh Sargent will be able to go tomorrow. I'm just not. That was an actual injury. A pelvic contusion, a bruised bone or bruise is definitely a little bit easier to get over and easy to recover from if it's, not as serious. Which it seems like Pulisic's was not that serious. I mean, it hurt, obviously. But, an ankle injury, even if it's just a rolled ankle, can keep you off your feet for a while. Berhalter does seem to be more confident that Pulisic will go more than Sargent will go. But I would, you're probably going to end up starting Haji Wright, to be quite honest.
Why not Jesus Ferreira?
I don't think Jesus Ferreira is a good striker. And I think in this game, when you're talking about a team that's going to be a little bit more in a defensive posture, a team that will probably need to hit on the counterattack, I do think Haji Wright is a little bit better at that. He's also a bigger body, better defensive on set pieces and attacking. That said, we haven't been great at taking set pieces. Jesus Ferreira can take a corner kick, can take free kicks. That might be the opposite end of he's a little bit better on attacking those, but I don't think it's that big of a deal, that big of a part of his game anyway. But I think Haji Wright's the starter.
Arrascaeta has scored for Uruguay in the 26th.
Oh, no.
So Uruguay now with a 1-0 lead. Joe Bost has a decent idea. Two problems: one, travel, and two, the roster. But Andrew Gutman in as your striker back.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Hey, I did see Andrew Gutman and Thiago Almada on a promo from Fox 5 this morning. They were talking about the World Cup. So maybe that's a sign that Gutman's getting in as the left back come this next cycle for the U.S. men's national team.
That'd be pretty.
We need a backup to Anthony Robinson. Why not the best left back in MLS?
Mm-hmm. When it comes to how is your bracket right now, by the way, when it comes to the tournament?
Let me check.
Did it get ripped up?
Not quite, but let me check. This is my last question I'll be able to answer. So right now, I'm doing okay because I had Japan, so we're good there. I had Netherlands, USA, Argentina. I did have Denmark, not great. Had Spain, Croatia, Brazil. I have Uruguay, so that would help me if Uruguay wins. England, Senegal, we're good at. I had France, and then I had Mexico. So, the Mexicans screwed me over on that.
Mm-hmm.
But really not bad. I mean, I had Cameroon, Belgium, Mexico, Denmark as teams that haven't fully advanced from their groups yet. So,
so possibility of 12 to 16.
Cameroon still technically could advance.
Yeah, they could.
Right.
Korea and Portugal are now tied at 1s in the 28th. So
that is exciting.
That is exciting. Quickly before you go, plans for AO watching the match and plans for SoccerforUS POD.
Yeah, so we will be at Fido Midtown, the one on Peachtree Street tomorrow. Doors open at 8:30, 9 o'clock, somewhere in that time frame. I forget it off the top of my head. I'll be there much earlier. Do expect a crowded venue, so if you want to come watch with us, make sure you get there early. If you're a member, make sure you download your membership card from AO so that you can get in as well. We'll have a podcast dropping today. I have that audio that I need to put together for you, John, and then I'll send it over, and that'll be dropping today. Hopefully get that to you before you go do your high school football things.
I will be in a studio all day, so I will be landlocked. Just ship it when you ship it, and we'll flip it when we flip it. But
all right.
At SoccerforUS POD and at Bartimus Prime 19. Bart, go finish up your work day so you can actually not work for the remainder of the weekend and keep an eye on the US.
It's going to be a lot. Look, this is what you want. You want to have knockout round football, and we've got it. So hopefully it works in our favor.
Bartimus Prime 19. Bart, thanks for hanging out. We'll catch up with you Monday. So Bart is out the door. Now it's you and me for the remainder. But that also means now that we have the chance, time to read a promo, something that I always kind of forget to do. And it's because we fly around as much as we do. And we do have some news to get to before before we go. We got gossip, rumor, and innuendo and things like that, but we do have some news. A lot of it's from the NWSL. We'll get to that here coming up in just a little bit. But first, for odor-free, clean, fresh air, one place you need to go. It's Lemonize Service. QR code over my left shoulder for those of you watching on Twitch. Lemonize deodorizes enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos. They've created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pet cigarettes and food. Realtors and property managers use Lemonize Service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster, offering a turnkey process that makes it easy to work with said realtors and property managers. Kind of the environment, offering a green way to get rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever. Different than Febreze or our favorite masking agents that we have either underneath the sink or above us in the cupboard, because when you reach underneath you into the sink or underneath the sink or above you into the cupboard and you reach and pull out that masking agent and you spray it in the air, there's a reason they call it a masking agent, because you're just masking the odor. You're not attacking it down to the molecule like our friends at Lemonize do with their proven scientific formula. Pricing done one of two ways, either by the cubic foot or parts per million, to come up with a price that's affordable for you, offering results in 24 hours or less. If you have any questions, frequently asked or otherwise, what you do is go to the website. This is where I grab my pen. And Uruguay has scored again. 2-0 Uruguay in the 32nd. The website, lemonize.com, but do us a favor, go /Atlanta after the .com so they know what part of the world that you are addressing them from, so they can help you with your problems, your full homework assignment. ELIMINIZE.com /Atlanta, lemonize.com /Atlanta. For odor-free, clean, fresh air, one place you need to go. It's Lemonize Service, proud sponsors of everything SDH on a Freestyle Friday. And we fade and knock the loop out and stop the music. So there's your promo. And so Uruguay now up 2-0, and it's ones for Portugal and Korea. And Darasqueta scores again, so he has a brace in short order for Uruguay. And in the other match, South Korea and Portugal, 1-1 in the 32nd. So that's where we are right now as the chaos begins in the 10 o'clock hour. A couple of stories that I wanted to get into. It looks like Portland Thorns are being put up for sale in the NWSL. Like I said, there are a couple of pieces of news that are attached to Portland, one that just came out, and we'll get into it in just a little bit. But it looks like there might be an offer on the table for somewhere in the neighborhood of $60 million to pick up the Portland Thorns from Merritt Paulson's group. Yesterday, after the show was over, he announced that the Thorns are for sale, and he was seeking upwards of $60 million. Put out a prepared statement, and it ended with the Thorns need a powerful owner at the league level. It's a key period in their growth. And as a part of his sale, Merritt Paulson will include a $1 million donation to the NWSL to help establish the NWSL Players Safety Department. Decision comes to sell, and this is from our friends at Oregon Live, after the U.S. soccer investigation found he and his executives enabled and vouched for Paul Riley, the former coach of the Thorns, accused of sexual misconduct by multiple former players. In the weeks after the investigations released, Paulson fired execs Gavin Wilkinson and Mike Golub, stepped down as CEO of both teams. An NWSL and NWSLPA investigation into misconduct and abuse across the league is expected to be released soon. Paulson said of the club's failures outlined in the report, quote, "It's not disqualifying for ownership of the Thorns. We've acknowledged the mistakes we've made with Paul Riley's situation, but I think it's important," and this is Merritt Paulson again, "I think it's important people recognize the other side of what we've done and have an opportunity to talk about the full picture with all of the reports," end quote. The sale of the Thorns once again cuts the organization in half. Paulson insisted he'll do everything in his power to make sure the transition is seamless and the Thorns are able to thrive. The business side of the Thorns, team's technical staff, finance and human resources, and soccer operations staff will report to the new owner. Peregrine Sports, the operating entity for the Thorns established by Paulson and his father, Hank, will only be involved with the Thorns by renting out Providence Park to them for home games, according to Merritt Paulson. He said he'd like to see new ownership of the Thorns be woman-led, that he would provide favorable usage terms for the Thorns to continue playing all their home games at Providence Park. A dedicated training facility for the Thorns who practice at Providence Park is in the works. Added that he wants new ownership to carry those efforts across the finish line. Then there was various quotes across the board. So as quote, as long as Merritt Paulson is an owner, and this is part of the trust that the supporters trust that keep an eye on things. As long as Merritt Paulson is an owner with a financial stake in either club, he is still in an unacceptable position of power and control. The 107 Independent Supporters Trust, Rose City Riveters, and Timber Army said in a joint statement provided to the Oregonian. Quote, we will continue to call for the sale of both teams and for the sale, divestment, or removal of interest and control from all professional development and youth soccer leagues by Peregrine Sports. Again, we acknowledge that this will likely be a long and complex process. Optimistic about the tremendous potential of the Thorns under new ownership and look forward to engaging with prospective buyers who can help realize that potential, end quote. Paulson said it would be in the Thorns' best interest for him to maintain ownership in the Timbers. Merritt Paulson said, 2 different leagues. I don't have a diminished ability to be a loud voice at the league level in Major League Soccer. This was not a forced sale. This was a decision made purely out of what's best for the Thorns, and I don't believe that's the best thing for the Timbers. I think it's 100% the best thing for the Thorns that I continue to own and operate the Timbers, and I'll be in a position to set the Thorns up for success, much more so than if they were unbundled and both sold separately. They will not be. Then this morning, Rhiann Wilkinson came out with a statement, and it was released just a little bit ago. So let me get into that. And it was on her Twitter account, and she is she's leaving the Thorns organization. Put out a 6-paragraph statement, and during her time in Portland, met some incredible people. Fortunate enough to coach some of the best players in the game. It was a year to remember. During my time as Thorns coach, player and I formed a friendship, turned into more complex emotions. Mid-October, the player shared her feelings for me, and I reciprocated. While this was a human moment and went no further than this expression of feelings for one another, in an effort to follow NWSL PA process to protect player safety and to be as transparent as possible, the player and I immediately stopped spending time outside of training together. Soon stopped all communication outside of work. In less than a week, I reported myself to HR to make sure I had not crossed any ethical lines. My actions were investigated by the league and the Players Association by the joint investigative team in an effort to make sure all Portland players were safe and that the power imbalance between myself and the player had not impacted our professional relationship. After a thorough investigation during our playoff run, including a review of all communication between myself and the player, as well as interviews with both of us and staff members, I was completely exonerated of any wrongdoing once the investigation was over. I informed all staff of what had taken place, but the players found out before I was able to inform them myself. Narrative regarding my actions has now taken on a life of its own, and as a result, I can understand that the Portland players feel hurt and have to deal with another non-soccer related situation. Result of this being that the players have asked for my resignation, and I have agreed to it. So Rhiann Wilkinson has resigned as head coach of the Portland Thorns as of a half hour ago. Investigative process and player staff willingness to use human resources and league reporting is critically important. The women's game is to avoid further power imbalances and player abuses. These systems must be used, and there must be trust in the process and its results. We must keep highlighting these processes. I leave Portland in great hands with some of the best staff in the game. It was a real pleasure to work with them. Thank you again to the players. It was an honor to work with you, and I look forward to cheering on your continued success under new management. Finally, thank you to the city and the fans of Portland. You've set and continued to set the standard for support for the women's game. It was a great privilege to work with you this past year. So Rhiann Wilkinson has resigned as head coach of the Portland Thorns, releasing that 6-paragraph statement about a half hour ago. Then the other piece of information that came out yesterday was involving the Red Stars. And from Sportico, owner Arnhem Whistler has formally engaged a third-party advisor to facilitate the sale of his majority stake in the NWSL club. Emily Caron for Sportico says that Whistler has hired Inner Circle Sports to facilitate the sale. An investment bank, they are currently leading the sales of 2 expansion teams for the NWSL, one of which is widely expected to be the reincarnated Utah Royals. In an email sent to the Red Star shareholders yesterday, the board confirmed Whistler hired that firm, and the news comes just hours after Merritt Paulson announced his plans to sell the Portland Thorns. And then it was also announced that Danny Colaprico, Morgan Gautreau, and Rachel Hill are now free agents. And so you have that going on as well when it comes to the Chicago Red Stars. So we'll keep an eye on everything going on with the Red Stars and with the Portland Thorns. That is going on right now in the NWSL. So also, gossip, rumor, and innuendo before we go. And don't forget, once again, you've got Uruguay up 2-0 in the 41st minute. And using the back button on the remote control, South Korea and Portugal tied at 1. They are also in the 41st. The other issue, and all of this will now be able to see if the second half of the matches actually start simultaneously like they're supposed to. Eye on that, because that has been something that hasn't been quite uniform as we've been going during the tournament, especially here during match day 3. Atletico Madrid would be willing to sell Joao Felix for €100 million, £86 million, after signing the Portugal forward for €126 million, or £113 million back in 2019. Manchester United are keen, but face competition from PSG and Bayern Munich in a bid to sign Felix in January. That comes from the 4-letter paper, so take that at your own risk. PSG will also offer Lionel Messi a formal contract extension after the World Cup. That comes from Goal. Al Hilal now want to beat Al Nassr to the signing of CR37 after his departure from Manchester United. That comes from the Daily Express. Chelsea remain in negotiations with RB Leipzig over signing Josko Vardiol, and the Croat defender 20 has said, maybe one day I will be there. That comes from our friends at The Athletic. Atletico Madrid made an inquiry about Leicester's Soyuncu. That comes from AS. Borussia Dortmund managing director Karsten Kramer says they have a good relationship with former boss and current Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp, but the Reds will not get any gifts, in quotation marks, the word used. They want to sign Jude Bellingham from the German club. Declan Rice has indicated he wants to leave West Ham, saying he wants to win trophies and play in the Champions League. That comes from our friends at The Guardian. Newcastle United have been linked with Leicester City playmaker James Maddison, highly unlikely to make a move for the 26-year-old international in January. Nottingham Forest still trying to keep an eye on that narrative of more points or more transfers than points. Have reached an agreement to sign Brazilian attacking midfielder Gustavo Scarpa from Palmeiras. That comes from Fabrizio Romano. Chelsea rivaling Newcastle to sign Andre Santos, the 18-year-old from Vasco da Gama. That comes from our friends at 90 Minutes. Barca, their summer signing Franck Kessie does not feel comfortable at the club, and they would be willing to consider selling the Ivory Coast midfielder for as little as €10 million. Keep an eye on that one. Spain midfielder Sergi Busquets, whose contract with Barcelona runs out next summer, has not ruled out a move to Major League Soccer, and the 34-year-old hopes to make a decision about his future by February. That comes from Marca. Keep an eye on Inter Miami. Barca interested in Brazilian Endrick, 16 years old, but will not enter a bid for the Palmeiras forward this season. AC Milan hopeful the 23-year-old Portugal forward Rafael Leao, who's been linked to Chelsea, Manchester City, and Manchester United, will sign a new contract with AC Milan. Liverpool have held talks over terminating Billy Comecchio's season-long loan with Austria Vienna, as they've given the French center back 20 little game time. That comes from our friends at the Football Insider. So now let's go into the English papers and see what is going on in all of their notebooks. And once we find those releases, we'll get into the papers on the day. So Barca, of course, is open to a Messi return. Who wouldn't be? 3-letter paper, we're going to avoid their news. A Mirror, we talked about Cristiano Ronaldo, Al Hilal, and Al Nassr. Liverpool's owners, Fenway Sports Group, still putting recruitment high on their agenda amid apparent changes to their takeover plan, which may not see them sell their whole stake in the club after all. South Korea boss Paulo Bento blasted English referee Anthony Taylor for showing, quote, a deep lack of common sense when issuing him with his World Cup red card. Former Manchester United boss Ole Gunnar Solskjaer left staff members in tears by sending them a surprise Christmas hamper just weeks after his sacking, it's been revealed. Avoiding the 3-letter paper, the Times says Google's been accused of profiting from, quote, rogue online ticket touts by advertising seats for England's World Cup game against Senegal for up to £4,000. FIFA working hard to repair the pitch for the round of 16 match against Senegal on Sunday after concerns were raised about the playing surface at the Al Bayt Stadium. Aidan McGeady could return from a 4-month injury layoff to feature for Hibs in next week's friendly against FC Edinburgh. Guardian, and this is something that I wanted to talk about with both Jared and Nick, and we'll probably save it for Monday. World Cup organizers increasingly open to discarding the new three-team format, group format for the 26th tournament in U.S., Mexico, and Canada comes after concerns too many dead rubbers in the last round of matches could dilute the expanded 48-team event. Go to 4 teams in groups, 12 groups, 4 teams. It ain't hard. You got to do that. That's just dumb. Daily Express. England international Luke Shaw admits Man City players in the England camp stand out because of their love for playing football. Interesting. Mind-blowing fashion, one of England's standout performers in the World Cup, Harry Maguire, has been ridiculed inside the Parliament of Ghana during crazy viral footage that surfaced online. England using sports psychologist Ian Mitchell to ensure they're ready for the possibility of a penalty shootout in the World Cup knockouts. FA's head of performance psychology, who joined England from Wales 4 years ago, working with the squad at their Al Wakra base to prepare them for the stress of spot kick drama. And Daily Telegraph, Roberto Martinez will pursue options in club management after tearful scenes in the Belgium dressing room as he stood down following their World Cup exit. Daily Record, Celtic have been joined by Ferenc Varos in the chase for South Korea World Cup star Cho Gyu-sung. The Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors striker attracting interest from across Europe, with Parkhead boss Ange Postecoglou amongst the interested parties. Not a surprise. Canada boss John Herdman has dropped the latest clue that Alistair Johnston's imminently set to move to Celtic following their World Cup exit. QPR's interim boss Paul Hall shot down the chances of Leon Balogun rejoining Rangers after Michael Beale's move back to Ibrox sparked Loftus Road fan concerns. Maccabi Tel Aviv reportedly have a release clause in wunderkind Oscar Gluck's contract, with a host of clubs lining up to sign him in January. And Jack Aid has been brought in from Liverpool as the newest member of Michael Beale's staff. And Liam Henderson could be set to play for his 5th Italian club, with Spezia interested in signing him next month. And speaking of Spezia, looks like João Moutinho is headed that way. So from Orlando City, heading to Spezia. So we'll keep an eye on that one as well. So let's see if there's anything else going on right now. Still 1-1 toward the end of the first half with Korea, South Korea, and Portugal. That one looks like it's going to go 1-1 at the break. And the activity with Ghana and Uruguay, 8 minutes added. Wow, 8 minutes added for Uruguay and Ghana. Wow. So that one's going to be a while. So 6 minutes to go in first half stoppage with Uruguay and Ghana. Uruguay is leading by the score of 2-0. Getting into the 2 o'clock matches, Cameroon and Brazil. Brazil's a minus 244. Cameroon's north of plus 700. Your draw is at a plus 400. Serbia and Switzerland, they were at one point both at a plus 152. Serbia is now at a plus 160. Switzerland at a plus 180. And your draw is a plus 244. Standings going into groups G and H. Brazil in, and it's just a matter of goal difference. Really, that Brazil needs a point. And Switzerland right now at 3 points. Cameroon and Serbia each with a point. Group H right now, you have Portugal at 6 points. Uruguay beating Ghana would put them into the second spot. Ghana would not qualify, with the Ghanaians losing to Uruguay. Uruguay would be at 4 points if this result holds. And then it would be Uruguay and Brazil, perhaps, in the knockouts. Whew. So right now, Portugal at 6 points. They are, they're tied. So it would be 7 points, which is what they need. They need a point. South Korea would only be at 2 points. Uruguay beating Ghana is the big news here so far in the first 45 minutes. Uruguay would be at 4 points. Ghana would be at 3. South Korea would be at 2. So it would be Portugal and Uruguay that would go through in Group H. And still keeping an eye on Cameroon and Serbia if, say, Cameroon beats Brazil, or if Serbia beats Switzerland and they leapfrog them. So Serbia has a chance to get in and knock Switzerland out. So we'll keep an eye on that as we go here in the tail end of the first 45 minutes for the World Tournament that is going on right now. And they're halfway through their 8 added minutes that is going on right now. So enjoy the matches. We'll get back to it on Monday, and we will get through everything that's going on. Thanks, as always, to Greg Garza. Thanks to Bart Keeler. Thanks to Jarrett. And thanks to you for hanging out with us for another week here at SDH. And we'll be back at it on Monday. And so it'll be fun to catch up with everybody. Thank you, Nix, and thanks to all of you guys for all that you guys do on a weekly basis, hanging out with us. And so you can listen to this live. The live version goes over to the podcast, and you can check that out on the network. We'll have World Soccer Review later, and we'll have a bunch of stuff later on. You heard Bart Keeler earlier in the show say that the next SoccerforUS POD will be up, and we'll post that to the network later this afternoon as well when it rolls in, and you can listen to that all weekend long. So we'll be back at it again on Monday live. Next week's going to be a little weird. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, normal. Thursday and Friday, I have championships for high school football. It's going to be taped content. If I can duck out for an hour and do a power hour on Thursday or Friday, I will let you know. And we'll go from there. But right now, it's going to be taped stuff Thursday and Friday because of the high school football championships, and we'll post it as we'll do. And we have World Soccer, we'll have the World Soccer Review. That'll be up. All the other stuff will be up as well. We'll have some taped interviews as well that we'll post to the network also early in the week, and hopefully catch up with some folks too. But so it'll be all over the place, and enjoy the matches on the weekend, especially now that we will all be in the round of 16. So from all of us here at SDH to all of you guys out there, thanks for being a part of the network as you always are. We'll be back at it on Monday. Mucha plati, all play it safe. We will see you next time. And since it is the end of the show and the end of another week, it means I get to do this. We'll see you on Monday.